What's going on, everybody? This is the Debrief with Pastor Matt Brown, and my name is Jeff, the host, and we have someone special. You'll find out who she is in a second. We're going to have some awesome conversations about possibly what happened with the election. It's all coming up. Hey, soon and very soon, we're going to be talking about it. Coming up on the Debrief. What's up, everybody? Hello, hello, hello. This is the Debrief with Pastor Matt Brown, and we are so excited because today we have a special guest with us. So she is a guest as well as a co-host. Is that all right?
Can co-host, absolutely.
Pastor Matt, come on now. Pastor Matt. So Donna Martin's husband is Devo Martin, who is one of our worship leaders on the San Bernardino campus.
Yeah, and he's been at Hunter Park. Probably he's been at multiple campuses, right?
Yeah, he's all over the place.
Yeah.
He just came back from he was at Lake Arrowhead 2 weeks ago.
But he is a spiritual worship rock star. He
is
what you call a lead worshiper, not a worship leader, a lead worshiper. Come on,
he's great.
But Donna, so you and your husband, I think both of you, are all about the nonprofit world. And so, yes, it's awesome. Tell us a little bit about the Joy Company.
Yeah, so we 2 years ago started a nonprofit called the Joy Company. It's the name is based off 3 John 1:4. I have no greater joy than to see my children walking in truth, or the next generation walking in truth. And so we started a nonprofit to go into public schools and preach the gospel. That's basically what we do. Now, COVID kind of shut that down just a little bit, but we still meet with our student leaders. And so through the club system, we help kids live out their faith on campus. And
that's awesome.
Every week we would feed them and preach to them and see them lead. I mean, we got to baptize some kids in the school pool. It was crazy.
That's incredible.
Yeah, pretty gnarly. We go and we just love on the whole campus. And so they've given us a lot of freedom because of the love. And so we love on the staff, the students, the janitors, the principal. I mean, they know we're there to love their kids. And so we've been doing that since 2018, and we just saw God. We've seen God do amazing, amazing things. Obviously, with school shut down, we've just been pouring into our student leaders, like teaching them how to share their faith, and it's been good. It's been really good. So that's what we do. I mean, we just evangelism in public school, preach the gospel, and we've seen so many kids come to
So if our listeners want to get involved or donate to the Joy Company, how can they do that?
Yeah, so you can go to joyco.info, JOYCO.info, or thejoycompany.info. On Facebook, we're The Joy Company. You can follow me and Devo. On Instagram, we're The Joy Company. And so, pop over, see what we've been doing, see the kiddos' lives that we've been impacting. It's been pretty gnarly to see what God has done in San Bernardino on school campuses. We've just seen amazing things with kiddos giving their heart to Jesus. Some of them just receiving prayer. For many of them, it's the only Jesus they get all week when they're with us, which is 30 minutes during lunch of us feeding them, playing a game with them, and trying to say at least a scripture or two. And it's the only Jesus that they get. So many of them don't go to church, and so we just decided to take church to them.
Man, praise
Amen.
God.
Well, welcome.
Awesome.
Glad you're here.
Thanks. Yeah, happy to
we'll
be
try
here.
not to be too intimidating.
Right.
I'll try not to
I'll hold my own.
Exactly.
I'll hold
I
my
know
own.
you will.
Believe me.
I know you will. It's so awesome to have, I think a couple of weeks ago, we had Melody on, one of the executive directors here, and just so awesome to see female leaders, powerhouses like yourself, and doing what you're doing. She's involved also Cultivate, which is our women's ministry. You speak with that, and you speak on there, and so it's just so neat to have you here hanging out with us.
I'm excited.
And so and just having a little bit of your voice even in this conversation. So Pastor Matt, the Debrief Show, it is your show. I got a couple questions for you. So this past week, obviously, there's a new president-elect. And so I wanted to clarify, or can you clarify a statement that you made as far as you talked about the idea of reality that there's more people who are relying less on God than, and they're relying more on voting, and there's more people in the voting booth than going to church. And so can you talk about that a little bit and what you were
when
saying?
you look back, this election reminds me a lot of 1996. We had a president, Bill Clinton, who was incredibly popular on one side, but like Trump, incredibly controversial. And so maybe Bill Clinton didn't have Trump's rhetoric or, persona Clinton was beloved by half the country and loathed by the other half of the country. And so, Bob Dole, who was well past his prime, not unlike President Biden, ran against him. Yeah. The shocker in this case is that Biden seems to be the president-elect, and so that creates tension between the country, because the country's pretty split. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you would have told me last week on our show that either candidate would get 70 million votes, I would have said, you're smoking something, and we need to talk about our weed policy at Sandals Church. Barack Obama is the lone exception. He got 69 million votes 8 or 12 years ago. I can't remember, 12 years ago. And I never thought we would see anything like that again. That was a historic moment. It was an incredible moment. Mm-hmm. And, I was not someone who supported Barack Obama, but I was moved by the moment. Yeah. I was proud of our country. I was hopeful, and that's why I'm so sad to see where we are 12 years later. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it seems like, again, of the last 2 cycles of elections, we've had a black person on the ticket twice now. So we have Kamala Harris this time, and we had Barack Obama the previous time, and Biden both times. So that's interesting. Yeah. Maybe he's the factor, the secret,
Look at
secret
that.
white factor. I don't know what it is, but I think the thing that scares me is. So in Clinton and Bob Dole, I think the total vote count, was 90 million.
Wow.
Yes,
total
votes. So now we have over 140 million votes. Yeah. So think about that increase in just 4 presidential cycles. It's not a lot of time. The American population hasn't increased that much, and it's because, like our guest last week said, 1% a year is leaving the church. Yeah. That's evangelicalism. So if you don't know what an evangelical is, that's Sandals Church. We're evangelical. And like A.B. Vine said a couple weeks ago, people don't know black people can be evangelical, but they are.
Right.
And the reason black people oftentimes don't feel like they're evangelical is because the political difference between white evangelicals and black evangelicals. And so they vote very differently, but they believe almost identical. It's very. That's why A.B. Vines is the first black president of the Southern Baptist Convention that became the Southern Baptist Convention because of the issue of slavery. Yeah. So you want to talk about shifting, right? So Baptists were one. American Baptists said slavery is wrong. Yeah. And Southern Baptists split and said, no, it's right. And so I'm a Southern Baptist that was on the wrong side. Yeah. We were wrong. It was abhorrent. Yeah. The problem is now American Baptists have gone super liberal in their theology. Yeah. And so what does that mean by liberal? It doesn't mean politically liberal, although sometimes it does. It means they don't believe in the virgin birth. They don't believe that Scripture is inspired by God. They don't believe in the literal return of Jesus Christ. And so those are fundamentals, and that's actually where fundamentalism came from. Yeah. The term fundamentalism came from a response to the liberal movement within academia that says, we all know that dead people don't rise. So Jesus didn't rise. That's a problem for us as Christians, because if he didn't rise, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
We know that virgins don't give birth. Well, actually, that's happened repeatedly now in nature. Do you read about it? They keep having these snakes that are in isolation, and they're giving birth. Did you see? It keeps happening. So they had a snake in some museum that's been isolated for 30 years, and it gave birth. So it's just interesting. And not that Holy Mary was a snake. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they used to say it doesn't happen in science, but it seems to be happening. So apparently God knows something that we don't know. But the virgin birth, the resurrection, right? Dead people don't rise. So they rejected all of that stuff. And so you've seen a lot of American Baptists and black Baptists. And by black Baptists, I mean you guys, black people who are black and are Baptists. And Baptists are still the largest denomination of blacks in America. I mean, it's huge, absolutely huge. And so there's a movement, that's what's so interesting, how things keep changing. But people are becoming less and less religious and more political, and that's the problem. So that was like a long answer to say, increasingly, and that's what I'm going to preach on again this week, is there's no hope for America when there aren't Christians in office, people who believe God, people who trust God. And that's really my concern for the Democratic Party. I have concerns for the Republican Party. I think Donald Trump is a poor spokesman for Jesus. I just think that he is. The problem in the Democratic Party is they don't want any of Jesus. So see what I'm saying? So we have a really bad spokesman. Like, he's just not kind. He says cruel things. And even if you voted for Trump, his personality is problematic.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, right.
But the policies of the Democrats are problematic. There's no God. They're pushing that out. And so, like, if you go to Washington, D.C. today, when I was a kid, and you got to get an actual tour of, the White House, all of those things. Now
Capitol,
you go
yeah.
through a video.
Yeah.
And God has been wiped out from everything that I'm not kidding you. Literally in places where it says God, they've wiped it out because it's all computer regenerated. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and that's not the Republicans that are doing that. That's Nancy Pelosi. And if you're liberal, Nancy Pelosi's from San Francisco, and they have a vile relationship with traditional Christianity. Governor Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, and many of these people out of San Francisco. And that's really my concern for us. Is it's no longer middle of the road Democrats. And the Democratic Party used to be blue collar. It used to be middle America. Now it's San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, Hollywood. And those are the people that are running that. And that's really the divide. The divide is between, city life and rural life and country life. And that's a problem for us going forward. And in the cities, churches are becoming hotels, condos, mosques, Buddhist temples. These places that used to worship God traditionally are completely empty. Yeah. And many of these places, like in Boston, New York City, Washington, D.C., these churches are museums.
Right.
Yeah.
And you pay money. Think about it. You pay money to take a tour.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. There's a church in Boston that... this Episcopalian pastor, I forget his name, but he created a revival within Boston in the 19th century. And he was just this fantastic leader. The same guy who sculpted Lincoln on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial sculpted this pastor. And you can see him in downtown Boston. And it's gigantic. And just think about this guy's artistry. And that's who they commissioned when he died.
Man, I love it's in Boston. Wow.
But it's done. People don't go there anymore. And... It just broke my heart. One of the most beautiful buildings in Boston is this church. And it just makes me sad. Nobody goes there anymore. Yeah. And that needs to concern us. And so a couple of years ago, I was in Israel, and hopefully you guys will come with me one day when we go. And there's something I want to show you. Remind me, Donna, because I'll forget. I'm a big talker. My wife says I struggle with follow-through. But Donna, remind me. Yeah. And when we go to... the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, so the place where Jesus Christ was crucified, whipped, and buried. All of those are on the same spot.
Yep.
Remind me, and I want to show you, and we'll just take a step back and we'll look at all the thousands of people that are walking through, taking a tour.
Totally.
And then ask me to take you to the place where they actually are doing worship.
Wow.
And I will take you there, and there will be thousands of people taking a tour of where Jesus Christ was crucified, where Jesus Christ was buried, and I'll show you where there's actual worship going on, and there's no one in the room.
Wow.
Wow.
That is a picture of what's going on, and that's what happens to the church. So, and so for my Catholic brothers and sisters and my Orthodox brothers and sisters, and many people, I don't know that they're listening, but if you are, God bless you, thank you for listening. That's the problem, is they think religion is about their religious service to God.
Yeah.
When Jesus cleared the temple to bring people into the church. That's what it's for. He's not interested. Isaiah says, I'm not interested in your rote worship, the mundane, kind of legalistic form of worship. He says, your mouth prays to me, but your lips are far from me. And so that's what's happening. And so many people, when they come to Sandals Church, where's the cross? Where's the temple? Well, two answers. Number one, you know what you tithe. We don't have the money for that. I mean, we just don't. The church doesn't have the money to build these museums to God anymore.
Right.
I mean, we can barely afford warehouses.
Right.
I mean, that's the truth. And if you worship Sandals Church and you go to a church, it's just a church that we've been given or we bought out of bankruptcy.
Totally.
I mean, that's the reality. We didn't build those things like your church. We can't afford to build that roof.
Right.
I mean, if you go to San Bernardino, I don't know how much money they spent on that roof, but it's not economical. It's problematic. Kids skateboard off it and break their
I say rain
leg.
falls off of it. Really well, maybe.
Right. And so we just have to say, okay, people are not going to church. People are not turning to God. And I think they're disgruntled. Here's my concern.
Yes.
I think people are becoming disgruntled with politics. And they're not satisfied either way. And I think there's some things that we have to talk about as we continue to move forward in this series called Election, Seeing Politics Through the Eyes of God. But politics creates polarization. Christianity created unification. So that better be a tweet, Mr. Terrell.
Tweet it
Okay,
out.
let me say it again so he gets it.
Right.
Politics creates polarization. Christianity creates unification. Because I remember my parents were diehard Democrats. So Jimmy Carter was first Southern Baptist to be elected as president. He was not the president Ronald Reagan was. I'm sorry. Ronald Reagan was a better president.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan understood the times better than Jimmy Carter did. I remember crying as a kid because Jimmy Carter lost.
Wow.
But my mom and dad, and so this is hard to believe, but California was a Republican state
Right.
until about 12 years ago. I mean, die-hard Republican. And we flip-flopped. Texas used to be Democrat.
No
I don't want pointing at you, Donna. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, but it used to be Democrat. And so things
Yeah.
have shifted.
No way.
But
Wow.
here's the
Wow.
thing is I remember there was deep division within our church.
Yes,
And
right.
most of the young people in our church voted for Reagan. Reagan was inspirational, visionary, directional. And there was no problem on Sunday
Right.
after Tuesday.
Come on.
There just
Right.
wasn't.
Right.
We came together, and because we were more about Jesus than
Thank
we
you.
were
Thank
about
you.
Yes.
being
Thank you,
American.
brother.
And
Thank you.
that's what shifted. And
Yes.
nowadays,
Yes.
left and right, people are more passionate about politics than they are
Yes.
about God.
Yes.
And, we're going to talk about this on our church staff. We do a church survey every year, and we're finding out that our staff is not spending time in the Word. So here's the thing is you're on Twitter, you're on Netflix,
Yep.
You're on all of these things. And let me just say, if you're listening, if you have not been able to establish spiritual rhythms of reading your Bible and praying during COVID, you may never. When have you had more time?
Amen.
More time to yourself.
Right.
And, I remember years ago, I had a homeless guy, and, he was just battling all kinds of issues, mental illness, HIV. I think actually he was AIDS. He had AIDS at that point in time. And he said, Pastor Matt, what I need is some more me time. I said, that's actually your problem. All you've done is it's you. And that's the problem. We need to shift time to God. And, he didn't like that. Unfortunately, I had to ask him to leave our church because he was so just aggressively opposed to everything that we were doing. And that's the thing is we have to turn to God, and we have to say, look, no matter who's in the Oval Office, Jesus is king.
Yes.
That's right. That's
And
right.
we need Democrats to honor Jesus as king. And that's the thing is I want to challenge Trump's rhetoric. I don't appreciate the way he said things. Not all immigrants from Mexico are criminals and rapists and all of that stuff.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I hate it every time he says that.
Yep.
But Barack Obama, and here's the difference. Here's my concern with Joe Biden as president. Barack Obama was strong enough that when the Democratic Party tried to take out In God We Trust, he made them put it back in.
Amen.
Joe Biden is not the leader Barack Obama was. And that's my concern, is he's too weak in that area. And the strength of Trump was that he was strong. The problem with Trump is he didn't listen.
Right.
I think Biden will listen too much. And, there were some policies going forward that I think America really needed. Donald Trump has been saying for go all the way back to 1988 when he's interviewed by Oprah. He has been saying our trade deals are killing the cities, the inner cities. Look at Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Bernardino, our cities that were once
Detroit,
extraordinarily, financially successful, and they're not now. And that's because we keep shipping out these jobs. And I'm really hoping that Andrew Yang, the Democrat, will do better, because he's the only Democrat I hear talking about this. He's saying we've lost touch with the blue-collar worker. And Andrew Yang is right. My truck driving friends are Trump supporters, which has never happened before. Historically, that is Democrat bread and butter.
Yeah.
And these guys are Trump supporting, Trump toting. And you can call it racist, or you can say, we need to listen to these people who feel like they've been abandoned by this party. And I think that's what you're seeing with Blexit, Candace Owens. They're saying, we keep electing these Democrats, and look what's happening in our inner cities. Black people are not better served.
Right.
And so we need to take a look. I'll say I'm black now because there's three of us. She's saying, as black people, I have to say they, I want to say we, they need to take a look and hold their leaders accountable. Because statements like, if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black, those are problematic statements.
Absolutely.
And Joe Biden needs to be held accountable for those. And that's part of my concern, if he is in fact our president, is I think our media falls, they're already in love with the Democratic Party, and so they don't report on things. The advantage of having a Republican office is I think they actually do their job, and that's what we need. Give Trump everything he deserves and more, because we need a press that's active, that's aware, that's challenging. But we need the same thing with Biden, because power corrupts, and a free press's job is to hold power accountable and to prove things. And so we'll get into that when we talk about have I been deceived, I think in 3 weeks.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Man.
Sorry,
Wow.
I know.
No, that's good.
Donna,
So
this
good.
is what I do. I just ramble.
I just love it. So good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So good.
So based on the election and based on the results of it thus far, we're going to have Donna ask the next question.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
From Best Enough.
Best is enough.
Best is enough.
From Dallas.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah,
Come
from
on.
Dallas. So this person says, my family is not handling the results well. How do you deal with parents and family who have become consumed with the election, which is kind of a little bit of what you touched on.
Yeah.
Have become consumed with the election.
Yeah, and I would just say, I think in this instance, I'm assuming that her family are Trump-supporting Republicans. I would say this is exactly what we've had modeled for the last 4 years with Democrats. I mean, every bumper sticker that you saw that said resist is problematic.
Yeah.
Because we can't have a democracy or a republic form of government where we resist the outcome of elections. So here's what I would say, and I put this directly on Trump, and if you're an 8 on the Enneagram, you need to listen exactly what I'm saying. Donald Trump needs to hold himself responsible for if he believes the election was stolen from him. Now, if you're a Democrat, don't freak out. I'm saying Donald Trump had 4 years to bring about voter reformation. What he should have done, and if I could have gotten his ear, because there were Democrats, 71% of Democrats that are polled believe Russians tallied or changed votes. Now, I don't believe that that's true, but 71% of Democrats believe that.
Right.
Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump an illegitimate president. That's problematic.
Yeah.
And if you're a Democrat and you want all of these Republicans to suddenly be at peace and unified, you need to look yourself in the face.
Right. This has been
And
going
just so
on.
you know, every Democrat that's listening, my good friend Ronnie Floyd, he's the president of Southern Baptist Convention. He called for a prayer meeting to unify behind Donald Trump 4 years ago. I didn't go. And do you know why I didn't go? Because they didn't call for that when Barack Obama was president. And we either unify around every president or I don't unify around any president. And what we have to do is we have to be honest and consistent. And so what I try to do is be consistent, understand we all have bias. We all have our own perception of what's happening. Like when we see, the issue of Ronnie Floyd, you guys can't not be black and see that. I said Ronnie Floyd. George Floyd. Sorry, Ronnie Floyd is white, and he is the president of the Southern Baptist Convention. George Floyd is black, and he was killed by a police officer.
Right.
So, and I can't not be white. So what I have to do is I have to look at my bias, and I have to say, okay, I want to be consistent. And I think as Christians, we're called to be consistent. And a lot of people use the word fair. They don't mean fair. Fair is this bizarre word that I don't know what it means anymore. What I think it means is I didn't get my way. Like, do your kids say that? That's not fair?
Right.
What they mean to say is I didn't get my way or I didn't get what I wanted. And so we need elections that are fair. We need to take a deep look at mail-in voting. But I blame Donald Trump for that. It is not a safe way to mandate votes, and I know a lot of my liberal friends love to point to Europe. Most countries in Europe have gotten rid of it because it's deeply problematic. The only way to have safe, clear elections is there needs to be Democrats and Republicans at every place. We need to watch people. We need voter ID. I don't care. That's not a racist issue. That the most powerful voice you have is your vote.
Your vote.
And we need to make sure that we protect your vote, my vote, and the vote. And we make sure that people are actually who they say they are. In every election, we have dead people voting. That will come out. We have people that vote twice, multiple times. I had 4 mail-in ballots that came to my house. Now, I sat my wife, my kids down, and we voted. Now, they got to vote for who I didn't look to see who they filled in. We talked about every issue, and ultimately, they did whatever they thought. But then we turn them in. We need to abolish voter harvesting. That is abhorrent. That's why I support Tulsi Gabbard, who's the only Democrat who speaks out against that. It's deeply problematic, and people cheat on both sides. Like one of the issues in this election is when was the vote cast? Here's the problem. When you go to the post office, they put what is it called? They put the date that it's on the envelope.
The postmark?
Postmark. But did you know that most post offices don't do that anymore? Here's another problem. Many people did not turn their ballots in to the post office. They turned it into a church or a booth or a box. So we don't know when those votes were cast. So that's the problem. It's when, where, how, and why. And we need to do that. So if you're a Democrat and you feel like I'm unfair, 70% of you feel like Russians had something to do with Trump being elected. So you need to understand that. If you're a Republican, you didn't like it when Trump dismissed that, which I don't think he should have dismissed it. I think he should, as the President of the United States, it is your job to represent all people in every vote.
Right.
Donald Trump should not have dismissed those concerns, and I think it's ultimately what may have cost him the election. But that's on him. But moving forward, we cannot have a system. America will not exist if people don't feel like the will of the people was stated, whether we like it or not. And we have to be consistent. And the media has to be consistent. You know, you can't call for peace when you call Donald Trump a fat turtle.
Yeah.
You can't call him a Nazi. You can't call him these things and then call for unity. You have to be consistent and you have to be fair. I think we need to look at journalism again. We need to look at reporting again. And we need to look at what we're teaching these young people to report the facts and the truth, because everybody lies, everybody cheats. And it's been proven Republicans have cheated and stuffed ballots, and Democrats have cheated and stuffed ballots. And let me just say this. If you're a Democrat and you have a hard time what I'm saying, I have Democrat friends who believe Donald Trump is Hitler, who believe Donald Trump is a racist, who believe Donald Trump is the most evil, worst president we've had in our country. And I would say I don't agree with any of those things. But let me just tell you, if I believed Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler, would I cheat in an election? Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Because if it's Adolf Hitler, I have to do everything in my power to get rid of him. And so that's deeply problematic. And that's why rhetoric matters. And that's why I would say it's wrong. It's wrong for Donald Trump to call immigrants who are coming from Mexico, Nicaragua, Honduras, right? These people who are coming to this, rapists, serial killers, whatever, that's wrong. But let me say to my liberal friends, it's also wrong for you to call these starving Irishmen and women who were starving under the thumb of Europe and they stole Indian land. What would you do? They had no choice. I mean, if you're going to have compassion for immigrants, you have to have compassion for all time. And you can't have compassion for brown immigrants, but not white immigrants. Because let me tell you something. When you were Irish or Italian or Polish, are you guys old enough to remember Polish jokes? I didn't grow up with black jokes. I grew up with Polish jokes. Polish jokes, yeah. Wow. How many Polacks does it take to, whatever? And by the way, you ever heard somebody say you got off scot-free?
Yes, of course.
You know what that means?
I know. Scottish.
It's Scottish. It's a derogatory statement towards Scots. And so this is just historically who we've been at people, as a people. And we pick and choose which racist statements are off limits. Right. And so what you have to do is you have to say, look, immigrants are all struggling. And these people are fleeing Honduras. They're fleeing Nicaragua. They're fleeing Mexico because they live in oppressive governments. Many of them socialist. Please, young people, listen to me. Some of them communists. Almost all of them banana republic or dictatorial. Yeah. Okay. I need to learn to pronunciate.
That's right. Yeah. You're doing good.
So you have to be consistent, and so I can have compassion for brown people, people of color, trying to immigrate to this country because they want a better life. But I want my liberal friends to have compassion for people who were starving, who couldn't feed their families. The average American 100 years ago lived to be 28 years old. Half your kids died before the age of 15. We can't imagine what it was like, and they were fighting over rare resources. They were fighting over rare resources, rare land. They were struggling. They were fleeing just a horrific system in Europe that was based on religion. It was based on class. And so we have to be fair. So we have to create a country that's fair. We have to really work on the voting system, because 4 years ago the Democrats didn't like it, and now Republicans don't like it. So what I would say is we all agree the system needs to be better, and it needs to be more fair. And what I think that means is it needs to be legit. That's the word I want to use. It needs to be legit, and we need to move away from a rushed vote-in balloting system. And there's got to be. Here's what I would say: if you want to be Louisiana, and I know we have sandals anywhere in Louisiana, so be careful. That's right. But Louisiana is a backwards state, and there is corruption there like never before. You know that hotel in downtown Louisiana? It just collapsed, brand new. Why would it do that? Because there are people taking payments. And I think it's the new Hard Rock Cafe downtown in Orleans. It collapsed. And That's the stuff that happens in China. That's the stuff that happens in third world countries where people are getting paid to overlook issues. And so that's the problem. There needs to be when we all tell each other how to live, then there has to be a national law for how we vote. Like you want your cousins, all your cousins and your uncles and your brothers to be the mayor and the city council. Look, that's fine. I'm not living in your town. But where are we going to go? Yeah. Like, we all have to live in America. There needs to be a national way that we vote. Because did you know this? The offices of the president is the only thing that we all vote on. Like, your congressman, everybody didn't vote on your congressman.
Right.
Everybody didn't vote on the Supreme Court, right? Everybody didn't vote on your senator. Everybody didn't vote on your governor, your mayor, your city council. But the president, the office of the president, it's the only thing where we all get to vote. And that should be precious and cherished. And I think part of the problem is we keep going left to right. And historically, what presidents have done is they've been in the middle. And which, the left hates and the right hates. Because they, they make these campaign promises to their base and then they don't do them. Well, and that's been good. So the problem is, Obama went way left, Trump pulled us back way right, and now we all have whiplash.
Yeah.
So let's get somebody that governs the country, and we need to understand this.
Right.
If you are a Democrat, Joe Biden is not a mandate for America. It is the most closely controversial election since Al Gore. George Bush was not a mandate against Bill Clinton. I mean, it is incredibly close, and we need presidents who govern that way. And I hope and pray that if Joe Biden is the president, that he will govern that way. We need to hope and pray for that. So, I know, talk forever.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good.
So I'm praying for your family in Texas.
Please, yes. And I got a lot of family everywhere. My mom is one of 10. My dad is one of 15.
Yes.
And none of them had less than 4 children. So I got family everywhere.
Everywhere.
How many kids do you have?
I have 4.
4. Okay. Yeah.
4, no more. My wife's is like 4. One
You
more.
have 3, right?
I have 3. Yeah, we have 3.
Yeah.
And all 3 of my sisters live in Texas. So
Oh, Texas. Oh, maybe.
Where in
a lot of
Texas?
family all around Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only flown into
one lives
Dallas.
in Paris.
Terrifying every time.
Yeah. I think one lives in Paris, which is like somewhere out in the sticks somewhere, but the other 2 are in Dallas.
Yeah. Driven through Texas. Took me 4 days.
Yeah.
But
I've never done that. They invented these things called airplanes.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So connect the concept of unwanted outcomes from the election, because it seems like that's kind of where a lot of people, these questions are coming from, people who are dealing with unwanted outcomes. And in one of the main points in your sermon this weekend was that God wants to use unwanted outcomes to expose unhealthy emotions. And just based on our questions, it just seems like that's kind of what everybody's dealing with. They're dealing with how do they grapple with what they didn't get what they wanted.
Yeah.
And so can you share about a time that you experienced that yourself, where you where God was checking some unwanted or unhealthy emotions in you because of something that didn't turn out the way you wanted it to?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say this election. I thought Trump was going to win. I thought when Florida went for Trump, I thought it was a done deal. I've never seen an election where a president won Florida and Ohio and lost.
Right.
We need to look at this process. And so I thought Donald Trump was going to win. I woke up and I realized, wow, he's not. I got to preach this message. So the sermon I preached to you guys, and by the way, I got grilled by some of my conservative friends. I had a woman direct message me, said, "You're a joke. Sandals is a joke. You should have taken a stand."
Come on, man.
I mean, harsh stuff. I get it from the left and the right, which usually tells me I'm probably doing something good.
I'm telling you, that message was powerful.
Well, thank you. Well, not everybody agreed.
Wow.
And I want to be consistent, and I want to lead the Democrats in our church who are deeply troubled by Donald Trump's personality and some of his policies. I understand that. I think Joe Biden is saying some of the right things. We'll see what he does.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so kind of wrapping up.
We're just getting started.
I mean, we could, we can keep going.
We can go all day.
But I just wanted to quickly talk about this. So there's a good chance, probably a great chance, that there are people going to have some tricky conversations over this next week with some individuals. It could be family members, it could be coworkers, could be possibly folk in the church. With that, we've gotten 2 similar questions that are along the same lines. Rodrigo.
Yes.
Says, in a group of friends that don't have the same position, should we stand by our opinions?
I think opinions are dangerous things. One of the things that I've learned is you have to be very careful about having opinions in politics because we don't have all the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right, right.
politicians work overtime
Yeah.
to keep us from learning the facts, left and right.
Yeah.
And we need to be very, very careful and very, very wary. I think we need to learn how to talk about things. I'm going to try to talk about this in terms of developing a political strategy. We have to learn to change the conversation. I think it's a losing conversation for conservatives, and by conservatives I mean conservative secularists. And I'm not a big fan of conservative secularists. I think without God, this country's screwed. I believe that. So, and there are those. And Donald Trump's support increased amongst gays, increased amongst Latinos, and I think he tripled his support amongst blacks in America. That is not a story that's being reported, but it is a fact. I think Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 30 points amongst Latinos in Florida.
Wow.
Check this out. There's a little town in southern Texas, 96% Hispanic. The average wage is $7,000 a year. How is that possible? I do not know. Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 40 points in that town.
Yeah, I heard that.
What is that?
What is that? What is that?
And what that tells you is white liberals know nothing.
Yeah.
You know, there used to be a conservative in New York. He used to say this: I would rather be governed by the first 1,200 names in the phone book than by anybody at Harvard, Yale, and Oxford.
No way. Wow.
He said because these elites are so removed from reality, they're
right,
ignoramuses.
right.
I can't remember his name, but I used to watch him on PBS when I was a kid. And you can become so pompous and so arrogant. And I think, again, if you're a Democrat, and it breaks my heart that the Democrats, they don't understand Trump. People in this country who are uneducated, blue collar, feel left behind and forgotten. Go figure. A guy who's been a billionaire since the day he was born has identified with them. The guy eats McDonald's and drinks Pepsi. Donald Trump's a weird dude, right? lives in Mar-a-Lago. Is it Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah.
Right. So he relates to them in a way. He connects with them in a way, with a group of people who feel unheard and unseen, and they feel left by the coastal elites. That's problematic. Hillary Clinton didn't get it. I don't think Joe Biden gets it. I don't think most media gets it. And they're not racist. Nobody wants to be called a racist. I'm just telling you, that ship has sailed.
Absolutely.
Right.
Totally.
Racism is on life support, and it's used by politicians to be elected.
Yeah.
We need to increase funding. The difference between a police officer in California and Arizona, I think the difference is a highway patrolman makes $100,000 in California, and I think on the border towns of Arizona they make $35,000 a year. Wow. That's a problem. We need police officers to be well trained. We need police officers, and here's the other thing: we need to look at the tasing industry.
Yeah.
Who lobbied that? Who pushed that through? There's big money in all of this. We're going to talk about this. You know, why can't we invent a net? We need to invent a net, like Batman.
Right,
you shoot a net, it takes somebody down, you let them squirm.
Right.
You know, there's got to be some kind of. I mean, if they can invent magic shell, have you seen that?
Magic shell.
You put it on your ice cream and it hardens up.
yeah.
That's so funny.
Let's invent
Magic shell.
Magic shell, and shoot it at people, and it's plastic that instantly hardens, and the cops can step back, like that poor black guy that got shot in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Do you know that the police officers are not equipped with tasers?
Wow.
So what are they going to do?
Right.
You got a crazy black guy with a knife.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I don't want him dead, but they've got to have a resource.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, at what point, what do? You got to do something. I don't want him dead. But when Philadelphia defunds the police and they take away another option, I want cops to have 10 options before they pull the gun.
Yeah, right.
Because once that happens, everybody loses.
Yeah.
And we
Everybody
need to
loses.
fund police. There's got to be a geek out there somewhere that loves Batman.
Right.
That can figure this out, where
Loves
cops can shoot something at a person where it's just goo, and literally it hardens within seconds.
Yeah.
And we deal with that because even George Floyd, if there's a way that they can detain him from a distance, the knee isn't going on the neck.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
But we got a big dude who won't get in the car, and for 22 minutes, that police officer lost his mind.
Yeah.
And you know what? Did you know I was a cop?
I know. Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, I wish I could say that I never lost my mind. You get frustrated. We can't have a society where you call guys pigs and Nazis and you spit in their face. What job does that have? Can you imagine if you came to work and I spit in your face and I called you a pig and we can't live in that world. And it's a tough situation. And so we've got to figure out a way to talk about this and if you're black, please be a police officer, get involved,
Absolutely.
be in your police department, be a changer of things. We need great officers, and I like what you do, and I started doing it since you do, but it means more from you guys than me.
It does.
He goes up to police officers and he thanks them for what they do.
Yep.
And they probably are like a little, you know,
every time.
And we need to do it.
Officer.
Thank you for what you do.
Absolutely.
But you know, I don't think we can buy police officers Starbucks.
Why can't we?
I think they're not allowed to take it. That's wrong.
Oh, really?
I think we should be able to do that.
When I used to work at Starbucks, anytime a cop would come in, I would give them a free coffee.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them still do it, but
but
that was also like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're old, bro.
Right, I'm an old.
Okay, what was the last question? Because I think.
Well, this one actually.
I would just say
connects.
you have to hold opinions loosely. And again, the
You're
problem is we use the word believe. Like, I don't like the word I believe women. I have to use the word I believe God.
Yeah.
Amen.
We have to sort through the evidence.
Right.
Yes.
And here's the thing in ministry, and I try to tell people this all the time. I can't tell you how many times, Donna, I've looked at a woman and she has cried and lied. I mean, you cannot trust tears. And I don't mean that disparagingly against women at all. I am just telling you, I have been lied to so many times by so many people of every color you can imagine.
Right.
Gay,
Yeah.
straight, black, white, married, divorced, on staff. I've had pastors look me right in the face and lie to me.
Yep.
Okay? I supported Bill Clinton in 1992. He looked me in the face on a camera and said, I did not have sex with that woman.
Right.
Whoops, we found a dress.
I did not have.
I did not have sex with that woman. Unfortunately, my memory's not the greatest. I was not on an airplane with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. All right. Oh, watch it.
You know, so
Yeah.
here's what I would say is let's talk about issues. And that's one of the things I'm going to try to, I think conservatives, and 80% of Christians call themselves conservatives, even liberals in the church. You've said this, right? What did you say? You have a conservative mind, liberal heart, or I can't remember what you said.
My wife and I, we have I can forget a conservative mind, but liberal heart.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is, and I think a lot of liberals are that way, and that's the danger of where the Democratic Party is going, is I think they're losing those people, and they're losing them quickly. How do we talk about issues? And I think we choose issues like healthcare.
Yeah.
I think it is a losing issue, and I don't think that it's consistent with Jesus to say that people don't deserve healthcare. So I think I have to submit to Jesus and say, okay, I have enough money to give myself quality health care, but there are poor people in this country that cannot afford it. I don't have to be for Obamacare to support caring for people who can't afford it.
Right.
How do we create a system that moves the ball forward? I don't believe that socialized medicine is the way to go. And I know this because Canadians, English people, and people from Germany flock to America to receive specialized health care.
Yeah.
And guess who does that? Wealthy people.
Right.
Well, there ain't nobody going to Cuba for heart surgery. That isn't happening.
Right.
And I don't care what you heard on PBS. That is not where you want heart surgery.
Sure.
You want to go to the best medical system in the world. Now, is it corrupt? Is it problematic? Yeah, but we just voted out the guy who just, did you know that when you go to a hospital, they don't have to tell you how much things cost? It's the only service in America where they don't have to tell you. Donald Trump just changed that.
Wow.
He's the only president to say that they have to upfront pricing. Why wouldn't we have that? Doesn't that common sense?
Right.
Because the medicine industry bribes both sides.
Yes, they do.
They do. And so that's why these common sense things that you're like, why wouldn't they do this? Is because there are people that are, waging war against that, and there's deep pocket. I mean, we spend more money on healthcare than any other nation. We also have the best healthcare than any other nation. We got to figure out a way to do it. Also, the issue of abortion. I'm passionate about right to life.
About it too.
I think when does life begin is a losing argument. I think we need to argue when does motherhood begin.
Yeah.
Because we know. How soon can you pee on the stick and know? Is it 6 days, 3 days? I don't know what it is.
No, it's not that soon.
Okay.
I
don't know.
I would say
couple weeks?
Couple weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. You need
so that's why I think we need to talk about when does motherhood begin, because the test shows that your body is responding to a change. And we need to encourage women to be mothers, but we also need to encourage men to be fathers. And so we're gonna.
Amen.
I want to do a series called Sex Drive. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure out what we're gonna do for 2021. But we've not raised men to be fathers. We've not raised. And we got this question a couple weeks ago. What about, nobody ever talks about in the Black community the lack of fatherhoods. And the issue is that's becoming a growing problem in every ethnic demographic, with the exception of Asians. So I don't know what it is about Asian culture, but they're still heavily mom and dad families. But white families, Black families, and Latino families, the men are just gone. They're disappearing at a rate, and we know that that's deeply problematic. And that's one of the things I think that's problematic is, don't point the finger at the Black community. We need to say, look what we need to do. Look what we need to change, because it's a problem across the board. So I know I'm talking forever. Be very, very careful about opinions, and don't assume you know.
Yeah.
I just think what I've learned is I don't know.
No, right.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. And I think in today's age, people want a response that needs to be instant and public. And I would say neither of those are wise.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I would say this to all my disgruntled white voters. You lecture people when there's an incident with a Black person and cops. Take time, let the evidence come in, and all those people, jump to judgment, conspiracy theory. The internet is not our friend, whether you're left or right. It is not reporting truth. Stuff is made up. Stuff is fake. And we have to be so careful.
Yeah.
If there is mass voter fraud, it'll come out. And we have to trust that process.
Right, sure.
And if Joe Biden won, I want him to win fair and square. Donald Trump has a court system. He has the ability to do it. And everybody listening, despite what the New York Times says, they don't declare who the winner is.
Right.
Every state has to certify their election,
their own
and they go
process.
through a process. And there are Republicans in every state and Democrats in every state who will go through that process to certify it. And the election is what it is. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump, I believe, failed to communicate his vision to the American people. I thought his first debate was a debacle. He didn't communicate what he believed. He didn't communicate what he did. He didn't communicate where he was going to go. And you have to win in the area of public ideas. And he failed. You can't snort and growl and grumble and argue and interrupt your way. You just can't do it. And let me say, there's a difference between being the outsider. And so here's what Donald Trump didn't understand. It's easy to critique the status quo. What was Hillary Clinton? The status quo.
Right.
People were not satisfied with their life under Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was an extension of that. Now, Donald Trump is the status quo. He's not the outsider. He wanted to be. You're the man. And you have to argue for what you've done and how you would move forward. So First question, and I wish I was on his debate team. Racism. Remember the first question?
Yeah.
I thought he blew it. Here's how I would have answered that. George Floyd was a defining moment for us all.
Yes.
Black, white, conservative, and liberal.
Yep.
It's deeply egregious to me that happened. Here's what I've tried to do to help the Black community.
Right.
He's created economic zones. A lot of Black people don't know that. He's funded historically Black colleges. A lot of Black people don't know that. I have moved policies to get Black people out of jail who've been in jail for 30 and 35 years because this guy locked them up.
Right.
Here's how I think we can go forward.
Right.
Yeah,
I think we
that
need
would
to
have been-
create free trade economic zones in Ferguson, south side of Chicago, Watts, downtown Detroit, tax-free zones where we encourage enterprise to come in and lift Black people out of poverty, because I believe the capitalist system is the best way to lift people out of poverty.
Yeah.
And then I would have pivoted to my friend.
Yeah.
You can't snarl, you can't growl, and say I'm the least racist person on stage.
In the room.
In the room, right? I'm like, that is actually not an answer. That is a problem, and you have to be able to articulate your ideas. And
Yeah.
Black people need to know what you've done.
Right.
And
Right.
again,
Right.
here's the thing: liberals don't watch Fox News.
Right.
Conservatives don't watch CNN. The debates are the only opportunity where the other side has
That's
an
true.
unfiltered
Everybody's- Yeah.
opportunity
That's
to
true.
listen to what
That's
you have to
true.
say.
That's true.
So when you snarl, interrupt, and growl,
Right.
and sweat,
Yeah.
and act like an idiot, which he did,
Yeah.
that's
He missed-
on you.
He missed his moment.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
missed his moment.
Yeah.
So,
poorly.
if you're a conservative, you have to know you get one shot. And I know this because it happens every week. Every single week, people come to Sandals Church who don't love God, you know, and I have to be so careful. Are they black? Are they gay? Are they liberal? Are they an atheist? Have they been hurt in the church? Were they abused by a pastor? You know, were they a part of a cult? Like that's every single week.
No, right.
And I'm trying to speak to them in a reasonable way.
Yeah.
And it's why I'm not the Gibbs guy. I think he made a mistake. I think that's terrible because he has isolated himself as a political entity, and he's no longer going to reach his community. Now, he might reach Republicans, and you know, Republicans need to be saved. I got a lot of Republican friends I think are going to hell.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, pray about if that's you. But I got a lot of people that don't know Jesus and are on the liberal side, and I want to lead them to Christ.
Yeah.
And let me say this, nobody knows what Jesus believes or taught anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody does. People think they do. They don't know Jesus.
Right.
And so we need to preach Jesus and lead people to Jesus. And so I would just say this, look, God's still in control. We got to practice what we preach. I needed the message as much as you guys do. And our nation has real issues. And what we need is reasonable people who will work together to try to overcome those issues instead of running to our camps left and right. We have to look at what's happening to our black community. You work in San Bernardino. You see it every day.
Yeah.
What we're doing is not working. Eight years under Obama didn't help San Bernardino.
No.
4 years under Trump didn't help San Bernardino. How do we work to help our impoverished communities? And what do we do? And if you're on the left, public education has had its day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It has failed.
I'm telling you.
It has failed egregiously. We need to listen to what black people and minorities want. They want school choice. They want to be able to choose where their kid goes to school, and that is so important.
Yeah.
Across the board, rich people get to send their kids to school where they want.
Yep.
Poor people are stuck with a broken system where they have no voice.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, as a parent who had an issue with the public school, if my last name was not Brown and my first name was not Matt and I was not the pastor of Sandals Church, I am telling you, my child's issues would not have been heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's at our Riverside public school system.
Yep.
But when I picked up the phone and I called school board members and I said, this is Matt Brown, pastor of Sandals Church, they listened. And my kid was helped.
You're right. You're right.
But if I wasn't that person,
Right.
and poor black people in inner city communities are not that person and they don't have that voice, and that is a problem.
Yeah.
And we need to fix it. Healthcare, people have the right to be cared for. I'm not going to say they have the right to health care because it's cheaper to buy everybody a Mercedes-Benz. You know, people don't, that's the one thing we haven't told our kids is how much it costs.
Yeah.
And the problem with the socialized system is then we have a group of people we don't know deciding whether or not you get a kidney.
Right.
Do you know that happens?
Yeah.
Right.
Right now in Switzerland and Sweden, there's a big movement to abolish special needs kids. Do you know why that is? Because a special needs kid costs the socialist system too much money and they don't put in.
Gosh.
See? So you're going to surrender all this freedom to a government and then people get to care for your kid. And guess who cares for a special needs kid? Parents.
The parents.
That's right.
Parents. It's why I think Plato's Republic is a bunch of crap. And a lot of these socialists, they all think Plato was great. That guy's wacko.
Yeah.
Because what he said is we should all just have sex with each other and raise our children together. Well, what that means is nobody gets raised.
Right, yeah.
Right.
What we need is a mom and a dad, because you know who loves your kids.
Yeah.
We talked about your son turning 13, right?
Yeah,
Donna's
exactly.
on it.
Right,
dude.
yeah.
We're on it.
He's got a black mama.
Yeah.
I'm
We're
telling
on
you.
it.
And that's important. And he needs you.
Right.
Yes.
He
Amen.
needs you.
Amen.
And everybody needs a mom and a dad
Yeah.
Yeah.
to challenge them.
Amen.
My son, you and I were talking. My son, my girls, I never once said, did you do your homework?
Yeah.
My son, dude, every day, he lies right to my face. Did you know, Donna, our grandchildren will go to college and not have a male professor?
I believe it.
Because boys can't study. They're not getting through school.
No.
Yeah.
And all my liberal friends out there, read the book, The Boy Crisis, by a feminist, and he talks about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Our culture is becoming women-dominated because men are underperforming and falling apart.
Yeah.
80% of all boys are not at their grade level by eighth grade.
Level.
By eighth grade.
Wow.
They're not graduating. They're not going to college.
Wow.
They can't perform.
Great. And can I tell you that one of the things that we hear being on campus over and over that I've heard is, I need a mom.
Yes, right.
Like when I sit and talk with girls.
Why do you think that is?
You know, I think either the parents are absent or they're in the inner city, the kids are raising themselves. Mom and dad are working long hours or they're very transient. They're moving all around. They're, parents are involved in relationships that are all crazy. And when I sit with girls, they all call me mom.
Interesting. Yeah.
They call me mom. And these are girls, they're not even saved yet. They don't know. They know how I believe. We just talk about issues. And it's, I need a mom. I need a mom. And so that's absolutely spot on. I think in our inner cities, there is a fathering and a mothering issue.
Wow.
And it's not a blanket everybody with give them all the things. Because in San Bernardino, they kind of get all the things. They get the health care, they get the, our Medi-Cal or whatever.
Right.
Food stamp, whatever, I think San Bernardino is the second poorest large city in the United States. Wow. And so they get kind of all those things, like the socialized things, we'll call them. I'm not saying that they don't need them. There's people that very much need the Medi-Cal, the food stamps, all of those things. But there's such a lack of mothering and fathering. And that's what I've heard over and over and over is, I need a mom. Yeah.
And let me just say this for those of you who struggle, and a lot of our church members, they just don't get why it's our vision to plant 500 churches.
Yeah.
And here's why. What are the chances that kids in San Bernardino are going to get a Sandals Church experience? You'll get it in South Orange County.
Come on.
That's
you
right.
will get it in San Diego.
Right.
And it drives me crazy when all of these young, talented Christians, I remember sitting in seminary, Donna, and everybody's called to Malibu, San Clemente, San Diego. Okay, I'm not kidding you.
No, you're right.
Everybody's called there. And then I'm looking at the demographic of population growth. And it was all the Inland Empire. And nobody wanted or was called. So God knows where all the people are.
Right.
God knows where the greatest need is. But he's calling all of his people to these wonderful locations. And this is why I want to beg you to support Sandals Church. Sandals Church,
you're right.
and I drink the juice. Okay? I drink the Kool-Aid.
We all drink
Sandals
the Kool-Aid.
Church is the only church I know of that dropped $2 million to invest in a church in San Bernardino. People use San Bernardino. Sandals Church has invested in San Bernardino. And I'm just telling you, it is important that we're there.
Amen.
It's important that we work. It's important that we minister in these impoverished communities. Now, some of our new congregations are going to be in Orange County, and you're going to say, well, you're a hypocrite. Well, we need money. So
Let's just bring it in.
But
and
here's the
people
thing.
are everywhere.
Here's the thing that you need to know
everywhere.
is that money is going to be funneled to the places that are in need.
Absolutely.
And you've been at San Bernardino. It's one of our nicest campuses.
It's beautiful.
Yes. So
It may
nice.
be the nicest campus we have because it's actually designed as a church.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And in its heyday, it was a wonderful place.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But, people in San Bernardino deserve that, and we want to be a part of that. And we don't want to use them with bad theology or manipulative ministry. We actually want to care for them.
Right.
And that's why I want to encourage you to be a part of Sandals Church. And I just want to say, some of you right now, I know you're frustrated and I know you're upset. Man, pray about what you can do for the church. Because as the church goes, our country goes.
Right.
Amen.
And
please say that, please.
There was a day in my lifetime where there were strong conservative Christians who were Democrats. Strong, and that day is disappearing. And so here's what happens when we don't have strong Christian communities, we don't have strong Christian politicians. And we need those on both sides because every 8 years we seem to flip. And I'm wondering if the day and age of two-term presidents is over. Because we're so divided. We're so divided, and it's so close. Every now and then you're going to get a Barack Obama that's so one-off, right? There's just nothing like him. There's a Reagan, there's an Obama, there's a Lincoln. And it's just like, look, the Lord just created this person and they're fantastic. So those people are going to sway the people in the middle that really make the decisions, because 40% vote one way or the other, no matter who's in office.
It's true.
Man. 36% of our country voted for Walter Mondale over Ronald Reagan. What were you watching? I don't understand, right? So there's just some people you can't convince. Some people wouldn't vote for Jesus if he ran, depending on what party he was on.
That's right.
So, but thank you, Donna, for being here, guys. Thank you for listening.
So
Awesome.
grateful.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey, why don't you wrap us up?
So thank you so much for joining us. It's been an awesome conversation. Thank you, Pastor Matt. This is so great. And we love getting your questions. So onto the show, you can send them in at any time to move.sc/ask. And Pastor Matt will answer them.
Yeah, I'll try.
It'll be good.
I'll try.
Yeah,
Thank you, Donna,
best.
for bringing me back.
Awesome.
She did a good job today when I strayed. I just went
did
way
I?
out. Yeah, you did great. Thank you so much for being on.
so
And
much.
I realize I'm a lot to handle. Pray for my wife.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good.
And
Awesome.
you guys, let's all pray for our attitudes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't know how this thing is going to come out. But if Joe Biden is our president, I will pray for him,
Yes.
just like I prayed for Trump.
Right.
If I have the opportunity to go to the White House, I will go
Yes.
to meet with them and meet with people, just like I did with
Absolutely.
President Trump.
Absolutely.
And we are called to be salt to
That's
the
right.
earth
Yeah.
and light
Salt,
to the
yeah.
earth, regardless of who's in the office.
Yeah.
And again, if you're a conservative and you're a Christian, it's not just what you believe; it's how you say what you believe. And I think that needs to be our takeaway from this election, that we really have to be careful about what we say.
Yeah.
And so
It's good. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks
you.
for hanging out with us on the Debrief.